Hello, Tom Maguire. I just want to review the book Things That Matter by Joshua Becker. So the full title is Things That Matter, Overcoming Distraction to Pursue a More Meaningful Life. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I really appreciate it whenever you do that. It really makes my day. So thank you very much. Please like as well. That'd be fantastic. So Joshua Becker has written 4 books on minimalism and intentional living. This is the first one that I've read of his. One of them is called The More of Less, which came out in 2018, and that seems to be, from the little bit of research I've done, kind of his more successful book, I think, potentially. If you kind of look at reviews on Goodreads and things like that, I tend to use that a little bit when I'm checking books out. He's got a website called Becoming Minimalist as well, which he started. And I came across quite a good YouTube video as well, where he's talking about 7 daily habits that you can implement to make life better for yourself. So I'll just very quickly go through those before we get into the review properly of this book. So he says to have a 3-item to-do list, which I think is really useful. Just 3 things to get done that day, 3 of the most important things to get done that day. He says to exercise daily, but don't overthink it. Go for a walk, take the dog out, whatever. Just do some exercise every day of some kind. Turn off the TV and suddenly you'll find that you've got more time for more important things and better things, more meaningful things. Practice gratitude daily, keep a gratitude journal. He just says as well just to write something down every day, even if it's just a sentence, and writing things down just helps you to be more kind of focused and more deliberate and kind of concentrate a bit more on what's going on in the day. And we've talked about that before on this channel. It also makes you kind of more observant as well. Another one he came up with, which I hadn't heard before, he says reset your kitchen before you go to bed. The idea of that is that you wake up to a clean, prepared, organised kitchen, so that it's one less thing you have to worry about in the morning. It's more welcoming when you get up to make your cup of tea or your coffee and have your breakfast. So that's one that I'll be taking away. I think that's a good idea. It's kind of a good start to the day, isn't it? It's a bit like making your bed. It's like that first bit of success that you've got to start the day. And then his other one is eat together as well. So obviously if you're living on your own, that's going to be pretty difficult. But if you've got a family, try to eat together and just be a little bit disciplined. So that's just 7 things that he came up with on that video. I quite like that. I just wanted to share those before we get into the review of the book. I did enjoy this book. I was in 2 minds really whether to give it a go or not. I wasn't too sure. I saw it was quite new. But there was nothing massively that kind of stood out that particularly appealed to me. It's the sort of book that normally does appeal to me, but I've read so many personal development books over the years and listened to so many personal development books as well over the years that I wasn't too sure if this would be any good, but I did quite like it. I wouldn't say it's a 5-star book necessarily, but I do think it's worth a go. He talks about in the book making sure you decide to commit yourself to something each day. So it's kind of like this idea of today I commit myself to, I don't know, being a happier, more tolerant person potentially. Being someone who speaks up a bit more in difficult situations, potentially, whatever it is you want to do, just to decide to commit yourself to one thing each day, and that can just really give you that focus. And I think if I remember rightly, he took that from his grandparent, I think, possibly from his grandfather, might have told him that one. I could be wrong about that, but I'm fairly sure that's what he said. He says that he talks a lot about distraction being the enemy. So obviously, as we already kind of know, mobile phones, notifications, emails, phone calls, television, all these things that invade our lives and just cause us to stop concentrating on the more important things, the bigger things. They just grab our attention and they just take our concentration away from those better things that we could be doing. And he kind of gives quite good advice on how to get around that, how to work with that. He says that rest is for doing better work, and that work isn't to have rest as the ultimate goal. So many of us think that we're going to work until we retire, then when we retire we can kind of stop and then we'll be happy. But actually, as we've heard before in different personal development books, and I've talked a lot on this channel before, that work should be something you do that you enjoy and that gives you meaning and purpose in life. I know for some people that sounds like complete fantasy, and it can be quite insulting to people who are working really hard in jobs that they hate and they feel as though they've got no other choice. But I do think a big part of personal development is to really try to get yourself into a place where you're doing a job that you might not necessarily love it, but you at least feel as though it gives you something. It gives you at least a sense of kind of purpose and meaning, and that you can just kind of get on with it and make the most of it. I think in that respect, this book is kind of better for people who are maybe a bit further along on their personal development journey. So maybe for slightly more successful people who kind of tend to allow themselves to drop the bat here and there and maybe get a bit distracted. I think if you're someone who's kind of really, really struggling, you might find this book a little bit difficult in that respect, but that's just something to bear in mind. He says that going after a more meaningful life might, in some cases, mean taking a pay cut potentially, and that's obviously something you're going to have to talk about with the people that matter to you, loved ones, wives, husbands, children. You know, taking a pay cut can be a very serious, consideration, and actually the people around you may or may not want to support you with that for whatever reason. So you need to have these open, honest conversations. But if it is about achieving more meaning and purpose in your life, then it's something that you have to have a serious think about. In my experience, people who hold on to superficial desires become bitter and resentful. So people who hold on to these kind of high octane goals of making as much money as possible, being as fit as possible, these sorts of things, as we age, we inevitably become less, to some degree anyway, less capable of achieving some of those goals. And it's better, and we become happier if we're able to sort of accept that to some degree and say, well, you know what, I might not be quite so capable in that area, but I can put myself somewhere else. I'm wiser, I'm more developed, so maybe I can go and help a few more people, maybe I can advise a few more people, play a more prominent role in my community potentially. So goals can kind of change in that way, and they should do. And really, he's talking about the fact that we should aim to have no regrets when we get towards the end, that we should try and think about our choices day to day and consider whether they'd be things that we would regret or not, and just make sure that we're trying to make those meaningful, kind, decent choices. No, it's a good book. I recommend it. I listened to this one on Audible. So thank you very much for listening. Like I said, please like and subscribe, and I will be back again soon. Cheers. Bye.